So, a very good evening to each and everyone. So, it's a glad to welcome we bring to you in this great evening filled with the desires and the hopes and the dreams we all share. So, I would like to thanks to the ESB Ethical Standard Board of ICAI for conducting such a massive and a very knowledgeable program where we have CA Ankush Jain who is being a speaker for this session. So, I would like to introduce CA Ayush Jain, who is a today's speaker in the Ethical Standard Board of ICAI. CA Ayush Jain is the founder of the unique startup which has been a conceptualized for assisting and empowering practicing units in leading the flawless professional life and also in capacity building. He is also a special invitee member of Ethical Standard Board of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India for 2022 to 2025. During the process of acquiring his certificate only, he became passionate and determined to bring qualitative improvement in delivery of services being made by the professionals. To pursue his goal, he started understanding the profession, public perception, functioning of practicing units, and ICI in depth. He is devoting day in and out to sharpen his skill sets for learning, teaching, coaching, problem solving, process improvement, use of technology, code of conduct, code of ethics, and in all, knowing, knowing the profession 360-degree angle. His way to represent professionals before various regulators, administrative bodies, government, and so on equip him with the extra mileage. Through this initiative, he aims to bring back the glory of this profession to its origin and help in bouncing to deserving levels. So we would be a warm welcome you, CA Ankush Jainji. Please, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Amanji. Thank you, Ethical Standard Board, Secretary Ashish ji, Chairman CA Anuj Goyal ji, entire board for allowing me this opportunity to share my views and the Code of Ethics on the Code of Ethics Volume 2, particularly on a very significant topic, significance of certificate of practice. In the current scenario, where many chartered accountants are considering the ongoing scenarios of disciplinary matters, NFRA, and other areas impacting the profession, many chartered accountants are under or are judging or are opting to getting this question in their mind whether they should continue to hold COP or should surrender it, or the COP is only relevant or limited only for the purposes of attest function, and whether it is relevant for non-attest function or not, or they can continue to practice even otherwise without holding COP. So these lot of the questions around this line within this four corners, many professionals are facing across country, and we will try to bring out the regulatory aspect and to bring out the areas about how COP is relevant for the practicing CAs or for any member who wish to continue their professional activities, how relevant it is, and whether they can surrender their COP and work otherwise or not. All these aspects somewhere around we will try to cover in this particular session today. So with this, I welcome you all, and to begin with, the first topic, the first particular aspect I wish to bring to your attention is the legal prerequisite part. Holding COP is a legal prerequisite. It is not a choice, but in order to function, to deliver, to practice, to execute, to engage in certain type of activities as a chartered accountant, or while remaining as a chartered accountant, holding a COP, obtaining a COP is a legal prerequisite. How it is? as defined under Section 6, subsection 1 of the Chartered Accountants Act 1949. Please understand this term. No member of the institute shall be entitled to practice, whether in India or elsewhere, unless he has obtained from the council a certificate of practice. The key word here, one of the key word here is whether in India or elsewhere. So CAs with the globe with the world being the stage, or world being the stage for the CAs to render their services, it may here be noted that even if you wish to practice outside India, you need to have a COP, you need to have certificate of practice from the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Even if you wish to practice in Dubai, even if you wish to practice in UAE, Saudi Arabia, Middle East, or any other country whatsoever, it's a prerequisite, it's a legal prerequisite to have certificate of practice issued by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. And now no member of the institute shall, so it's a obligation upon the chartered accountant of the ICI. Okay. Now this is the first legal prerequisite part which I wanted to bring to your attention. So it's under act, it's not part of the code of ethics directly, but firstly it's a part of the act. Okay. Now, so firstly it's a legal prerequisite. Then now, if now the first part is, if you wish to get if you wish to engage yourself or represent yourself as in a practicing chartered accountant, or you wish to you wish to practice across country or outside country, then you need to have a certificate of practice from ICI. Next part is the CAs deemed to be in practice. Even if you claim that you are not practicing, even if you claim that I'm just engaged in profession, I'm not supposed to obtain COP, certificate of practice, but because the service which I'm rendering may not directly be relevant or considered or construed as to be that to be rendered by a practicing chartered accountant. That is why I'm not supposed to obtain certificate of practice from ICI. Here, it may have been noted that as per Section 2.2 of the Chartered Accountants Act 1949, there are certain services, there are certain activities which are prescribed over here, where if you are rendering as a chartered accountant, or if you are a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, and you are rendering any of these services without holding certificate of practice, or I would say regardless of the status of your COP, if you're rendering such services, then you will be deemed to be in practice, regardless of the fact whether you have applied for certificate of practice or not. So what are such services? These are: a member of the institute shall be deemed to be in practice when individually or in partnership with chartered accountants in practice, or in partnership members of such other recognized professional such as company secretaries, cost accountants, and so on, as may be prescribed. It is prescribed under the act. As may be prescribed, he, in consideration of the remuneration received or to be received, first is engages himself in the practice of accountancy. Secondly, offers to perform or performs. So even if you please notice that the term is offers to perform also. So even if you have rendered, or you are just proposing, you are representing, you are coming out and representing that I wish to offer to you this particular service, and if you wish to engage, if you require this service, please engage us or please contact us. So even if you are offering to perform, then also it is covered. So offers to perform. services involving the auditing or verification of financial transactions, books, accounts, or records, or the preparation, verification, or certification of financial accounting and related statements, or holds himself to the public as an accountant. Service number two. Third is renders professional services or assistance in or about matters of principle or detailing about relating to accounting procedure or recording, presentation, or certification of financial facts or data. So, financial reporting is covered. All various activities related to the financial figures or accounting is covered over here. Then renders such other services in the opinion of the council are as or may be rendered by a chartered accountant in practice. So it is just like as may be prescribed by the council. We'll discuss it just after this. So if you are rendering any of these services, then whether or not you are holding certificate of practice, but you are a chartered accountant, you are just a member of the ICI, but not holding COP, even then you will be deemed as working in the capacity of a practicing CA, and you will be deemed as to be in practice. And explanation where if you read out the explanation, an associate or fellow who is a salaried employee of a CA in practice or CA firm, then notwithstanding such employment, be deemed to be in practice for the limited purpose of training of article assistance. So attestation function is blocked for the paid assistants, for the paid assistants of the CA firms who are they? The chartered accountants who are in employment drawing salary under 192 of the Income Tax Act, but they are under employment of the CA firm but holding COP. So they will be treated, they will be deemed to be in practice, they will be deemed to be in practice, and but only for the limited purpose. They will not be entitled to attestation function. So this is an explanation to the section 22, and whereby please understand. So the questions which many CAs are facing, that let's incorporate a private limited, let's incorporate some other entity, let's surrender the COP, let's do this, let's create a mechanism, let's create some other framework or some other uh, uh, vehicle, some other vehicle by which we will render these services. Let's create some platform by which we will render these services. Then you need to understand that regardless of the vehicle you are creating or you intend to create, or whatever shape or whatever face, whatever instrument you draw, as per Chartered Accountants Act 1949, you will be deemed to be in practice. It needs to be understood very, very carefully that you will be deemed to be in practice. And once you are deemed to be in practice, you need to have, you were supposed to have, and you are supposed to have certificate of practice, because unless you have certificate of practice, you are not supposed to carry on the practice, or it will be a violation of section 6.1 of the Chartered Accountants Act 1949. So even if you wish to engage, or even if you are rendering any of the services, or if you wish to engage yourself in rendering any of these four services, then it's a prerequisite to have to obtain the certificate of practice. It's a prerequisite to obtain a certificate of practice. Then so to while we have understood the serial number 1, 2 and 3, the serial number 4, if we go, then pursuant to section 224 above, the council has passed a resolution permitting CA in practice to render entire range of management consulting and other services given below, whereby management consultancy and other services shall not include the function of statutory audit or financial reporting, or periodical audit, tax, both direct tax and indirect tax representation, or advice concerning tax matters, or acting as liquidator, trustee, executor, administrator, arbitrator, or receiver, but shall include the following. So here they have defined this term management consultancy and other services. So in order to pursue, we are reading from here, in order to pursue any of these services, any of these any of these 28 services, again, any of these 28 services, you will be deemed to be in practice, and COP is a prerequisite. Let's read out each of the service one by one. First service is financial management planning and financial policy determination. So, second is capital structure planning and advice regarding for raising finance. So, whatever the firms, if you read the third one as well, working capital management. Fourth is preparing project reports and feasibility studies. So if we understand these four, one of the services which CA say that we are not engaged primarily into attestation services or taxation services, but we are into project financing. We are into raising of the finance. We undertake primarily into project reports preparation, or we we assist the clients in raising the finance, or we do their financial planning, or we assist them in the corporate structuring, capital structuring. From the let's say they need a corpus of certain sum, then how they can, from what are the areas, for which, or what are the instruments through which they can raise the funds. They can opt for debt, they can opt for equity even in the debt, whether to opt from the banks, or they can from the other market or private equity, whatever. Even if you are doing undertaking these activities and you are a chartered accountant, you are a member of the institute, then you will be deemed to be in practice. Even for such services, you are required to have certificate of practice, and otherwise it will be a violation of section 6(1) of the Chartered Accountants. Then, after these four, preparing cash budget, cash flow statements, statement sources, application of funds, etc. These are compilation engagements, you can say. Then, budgeting, including capital budgets and revenue budgets, inventory management, material handling, storage, market research and demand studies, price fixation, and other management decision making. Many chartered accountants may say that how this is not a test function. Again, these are management consulting and other services, related services, ancillary services. And even these services, if the firm, if not firm, but even if a chartered accountant in his or her individual capacity, or there is no capacity, I'll refer that ruling by court, that there is no other capacity for a chartered accountant to function, but a capacity as chartered accountant only. So if you wish, if as a member you wish to undertake these activities, you wish to render these services to your clients, then you will be deemed to be in practice. Again, management accounting system, cost control, value analysis, control methods, and management information and reporting. Then HR services, personnel recruitment and selection. So even HR services, payroll services are covered. Setting up executive incentive plans, wage incentive plans, management and operational audits. Then valuations. Valuations, even if you are working as a valuer, even if you are undertaking valuation services, then also you need to have certificate of practice issued by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, even if you are undertaking these activities outside India. So valuation of shares and business and advice regarding amalgamation, merger acquisitions, registered valuer under Companies Act. Then business policy, corporate planning, organization development, growth and diversification, organization structure and behavior, development of human resources, including design and conduct of training programs, work study, job description, job evaluation, evaluation of workloads. What are these? If you are creating job profiles, if you are specialized in creating job profiles, SOPs, or KRAs, or how the work pro, how the load, how the assessment of a particular workforce or human resources is to be taken, appraisal programs, training programs you are undertaking, you specialize in corporate trainings. Even then, if you are a member and specialize in undertake corporate trainings, then also you need to have, you will be deemed to be in practice, and you need to have certificate of practice. System analysis and design, computer related services, system analysis, design, and computer related services, including selection of hardware, development of software in all areas of services, which can otherwise be rendered by a chartered accountant in practice, and also to carry out other professional services related to EDP. So even these services, you may say that how these are IT services, how can they be? So even if you're rendering these services, how ERP of a company should be, how the data will flow, all these systems, even if you are specializing in designing these systems, these all these, how the data will flow, the security aspects, data security, data integrity aspects you are taking, you are preparing policies for the same, you are assisting in the design of the system by a third party vendor on behalf of the client, or in all these activities, or you are assisting your client in transitioning from one particular system to another system, all these services are covered over here. Then acting as advisor or consultant to an issue, including such matters as drafting of prospectus, memorandum, containing features of the prospectus. So drafting and filing of listing agreement, completing formalities with stock exchanges, ROC, SEBI, preparing of publicity budget, advising regarding arrangements of ad media. Even these services, if you understand, brokers to the issue, bankers to the issue, underwriters, or advice regarding selection of various agencies connected with the issue like registrar, printers, stationaries, advice to the post-issue activities, for example, follow-up steps which include listing of instruments, dispatch of certificates, refunds, all these activities, all these activities, if wish to render, and specializing, even considering the ongoing scenario of increasing practices in SME listing. So even for all these activities, you need to have certificate of practice as a prerequisite. Explanation, just for the explanation part, it is hereby clarified that activities broking, underwriting, and portfolio management are not permitted. Then then investment counseling in respect of securities, as defined in this particular act. So many chartered accountants are into this investment counseling. So even if you are into equity counseling, investment counseling, then also it's a prerequisite to have certificate of practice. Or if you are acting as a registrar to issue for or for transfer of shares, or quality audit, environment audit. See, many CAs may say that the term may be used as audit, but it has nothing to do with the financial statements, or with a statutory audit under Companies Act, or tax audit under Income Tax Act. Still, if you wish to undertake these activities, environment audit, energy audit, then also certificate of practice is a prerequisite. Then acting as recovery agent in the banking sector, insurance financial advisory services under IRDA, including insurance brokerage, acting as insolvency professional. Even if you are acting as IP, then also COP is a prerequisite. Then the last part here is administrative services. What are these administrative services? These are defined under subsection 602 of volume 1 of Code of Ethics. Administrative services involve assisting clients with their routine or mechanical tasks within the normal course of operations. Such services require little to no professional judgment and are clerical in nature. Examples: word processing services, preparing administrative or statutory forms for client approval, submitting such forms as instructed by client, monitoring statutory, filing dates and advising an audit client of those dates. What are these activities? Return filing, ITR filing, GST filing, ROC filings, TDS filings. All these filings are covered over under this section, administrative services. What are these? The parent section is this. These are management consultancy and other services. And these services, all these services, in order to render these services, you need to have certificate of practice, certificate of practice as a prerequisite, as a legally prerequisite bound by, required by Section 6, subsection 1 of the Chartered Accountants Act 1940. So many chartered accountants, they might have what they are, if they are getting these thoughts that let's surrender the COP and undertake these services on volume at volumes that or creating a platform for only IDR filing or only GST filing or ROC filing, all the filing work of the country. They wish to undertake and wish to create such a platform. Even if you wish to create and you are doing this activity, even in such circumstances, you will be deemed to be in practice. And accordingly, unless you have certificate of practice with you, it will be considered as a violation of Section 6(1) of the Charter. So I hope I'm able to clarify various queries, various apprehensions, various thoughts and ideas in your mind that how and why certificate of practice is required. It is a prerequisite, it is a necessity, and it is required. Then other part, in addition, in continuation to the same, C is deemed to be in practice may, in continuation to the same, this section, this 2.2.4 pertains to your code of ethics. Now, pursuant to section 224 of the Chartered Accountants Act, read with regulation 191 of the Chartered Accountant Regulations 1988, a member, that is a chartered accountant, shall be deemed to be in practice if he, in his professional capacity and neither in his personal capacity nor in his capacity as an employee, acts as a liquidator, trustee, executor, administrator, arbitrator, receiver, advisor, or representative for costing, financial, or taxation matters, or takes up an appointment made by the central government or a state government or a court of law or any other legal authority, or acts as a secretary unless his appointment is on a salary come full-time basis. So meaning thereby, if you as a chartered accountant undertaking any of these activities, so unless you are working on a salary come full-time basis, you will be deemed to be in practice, and that you need to have a prerequisite. As a prerequisite, you need to have certificate of practice issued by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Then it was a clarification. It is in accordance with Regulation 191. Then it is necessary. Next part is, it is necessary to note that a person is deemed to be in practice not only when he is actually engaged in the practice of accountancy, but also when he offers to render accounting services, whether or not, in fact, he does so. In other words, the act of setting up of an establishment offering to perform accounting services. Establishment, for example, you created a private limited company, you created an LLP, you created some other vehicle. So the act of setting up of an establishment offering to perform accounting services would tantamount to being in service, even though no client has been served. So even though you claim that we have not received any revenue, we have, no engagement has practically been made, no earning has been made, no bank receipt is there. Even if you have created such a vehicle, then also you will be it will be deemed as that you are in practice, and COP, certificate of practice, becomes a prerequisite. And as I already indicated this part, it is coming from here. Offers to perform. I already discussed this. Then after this another one is just one part of this part is also provided that a member of the institute is deemed to be in practice during the period he renders service with armed forces. Okay. Now, I hope I'm able to clear this part. Deemed to be in practice. This is very significant, and I this is more this session. I really appreciate the initiative of Ethical Standard Board, and especially the secretary who discussed who wanted who suggested this particular topic of significance of certificate of practice, because it is required as a general awareness that members are getting under this dilemma that whether they should hold a COP or not. And I even earlier and even now, earlier I was discussing when I was discussing with the secretary Ashish ji, and I really appreciate that he chose this particular topic as a for awareness amongst the members across country, that if they wish to hand out themselves, if they wish to represent themselves, or wish to carry out any of these activities across country, well, regardless of the thoughts they are having in their minds that let's create this private limited, let's create this vehicle or what, regardless of what, they will be deemed to be in practice, and it will be considered and certain naturally as a consequence certificate of practice will become a prerequisite. And in case they are not having certificate of practice at that particular moment, it will be treated as a violation of section 6(1) of the Chartered Accountants Act 1949, and all repercussions will follow for the violation of this particular section and other requirements of the Act and regulation prescribed there. I hope I'm able to clarify. Then after this part, repercussions. When we come to repercussions, so the first repercussion which I wish to bring to your attention is required but not holding COP, repercussion 1. So if you were required to have a COP, as discussed earlier, just before this part, if you were required to have a COP, but you were not holding COP, then the first repercussion is Section 24 of the Chartered Accountants Act 1949. It provides that any person who, not being a member of the institute, represents that he is a member of the institute or uses designation Chartered Accountant. Second, Section 24, subsection 2 provides any person who, being a member of the institute but not having COP, certificate of practice, represents that he is in practice or practices as a chartered accountant. How will you represent as that you are in practice? If you are undertaking any of this activity. If you are undertaking any of this activity, any of these activities, that means you are representing yourself. That means you are representing yourself as a practicing chartered. So if you are a chartered accountant but not having a certificate of practice and representing yourself as in practice or practices as a chartered accountant, then such person shall be punishable on first conviction with fine which may extend to 1000 rupees, which you may seem that it's just 1000 rupees, but when you understand for the second repercussion or third repercussion, then you're able to relate that it's not just 1000 rupees, how deep the repercussions are. And on any subsequent conviction with imprisonment which may extend to 6 months, or with fine which may extend to 5000 rupees, or with both. So this amount, you may feel that this amount is very less. Amount may not be felt to feel pinch on your pocket, but firstly, this imprisonment and the further repercussions, which I'll just bring to your attention. So I hope I'm able to clarify this repercussion. So even jail, even imprisonment is there if you're not holding COP. But undertaking such activities which required you to hold you. So imprisonment is also there. Secondly, repercussion number two, clause 1, part 2 of the second schedule to the Standard Accountants Act 1949. It provides that a member of the institute, whether in practice or not, shall be deemed to be guilty of the professional misconduct if he contravenes any of the provisions of this act or the regulations made thereunder or any guidelines issued by the council. So, if you undertaking these activities and you did not obtain the certificate of practice, so not just that you are violating section 24 and you will be punished with this amount, including imprisonment, but also you will be violating this particular clause of part 2 of second schedule. And as soon as the second schedule falls in line, the disciplinary committee comes into picture. So the mechanism is disciplinary directorate, and from there, the diversion to board of discipline and disciplinary committee comes into picture. So if it's a case of only first schedule, then the case is referred to the board of discipline, and if it's the matter of both schedule or only the second schedule, then the matter is referred to disciplinary committee. So if you're undertaking any of the activities as discussed earlier and not having certificate of practice, then you are violating section 6.1. And as a contravention to 6.1, you are also violating this particular, you are also falling under this particular clause, violating this particular clause, violating section 6.1, violating section 24, and accordingly, this particular implication will also fall under you. That is, when disciplinary committee is of the opinion that a member is guilty of a professional or other misconduct. This is a professional or other misconduct mentioned in second schedule. This is a professional misconduct, or both first schedule. It shall afford to the member an opportunity of being heard before making any order, and may thereafter take any or one or more of the following actions. What are the actions? Reprimand the member and record it in the register of members. First is reprimand the member. Second is remove the name of the member. So not remove the name of the member from certificate of practice, but remove the name of the member completely from the register permanently or for such period as it thinks fit. So first imprisonment, fine, then imprisonment, then removal as a member. Removal as a member, not removal as a practicing, but removal as a member. The degree which you obtained with so much efforts, it can be taken away from you. The certificate as a member, that you are a CA, you're chartered accountant, that will be removed, that will be taken away if you are a member and you did not obtain certificate of practice while undertaking the activities discussed earlier. Then the third is impose such fine as it may think fit, which may extend to rupees 5 lakhs. So it's not just 1,000 rupees or 5,000 rupees, it is also these 5 lakhs. And the part in brackets, it is basically the amendment by the act into passed by the Parliament of India in 2002 and yet to be notified. But once it is notified, then this 5 lakhs will get increased to 10 lakh. So you need to understand the implication is firstly a violation of section 6.1, violation of section 24, violation of code of ethics, violation of clause 1 part 2 of second schedule, and accordingly the implications or repercussions include the monetary fine of 1,000 or 5,000 rupees, whichever is applicable, your imprisonment up to 6 months, permanent reprimanding, then removal your name from as a member, as a chartered accountant, or as well as the fine of rupees 5 lakhs or 10 lakhs, as it would be notified later. Then but extend up to 5 lakhs as on. So the repercussion is not just small. The repercussion is very high, even if you have created a private limited or you have created any other thing, any other vehicle for rendering these services as a chartered accountant, or you intend to do so, then also you need to understand these repercussions. I hope I'm able to explain and make you aware. Then the third repercussion is Section 25 of the Chartered Accountants Act, that no company, whether incorporated in India or elsewhere, shall practice as chartered. If any company, see, you may say the company is comes under Companies Act, but any company is mentioned, and it is provided under the, not under Code of Ethics, it is provided under the Section 25 of the CA Act 1949. So yes, company are governed by this provision also. So if any company contravenes the provisions in subsection 1, this particular subsection, then, and here it is mentioned in no company, whether incorporated in India or elsewhere. So if you are incorporating a company outside India, then also it is covered. Then without prejudice to any other proceedings which may be taken against the company, every director, manager, secretary, and any other officer thereof who is knowingly a party to such contravention shall be punishable with fine which may extend to 1,000 rupees, and on any subsequent conviction to 5,000 rupees. Again, these amounts may seem small to you, but let me tell you something. Whenever you are held, you face such consequences. Now you may feel that you have just paid this much amount, you may feel that you have just paid 5 lakhs or 10 lakhs rupees, and you are relieved. Actually, you are never relieved. There is a noting, there is always a smudge that you have been held guilty, in the past, and for all the impairments, for even for while giving consent under 143(1) of the Companies Act, there is a requirement to disclose about the partners against whom the disciplinary cases are going on, or the held. So wherever, at all such places, the when till the lifetime of yours, or probably the FRN, it is to be reported that such partner was held guilty. So once you are held guilty, then it is a smudge with your membership number for life. So it's not about the amount, whether 5 lakhs or 1,000 or 5,000 or any amount, but or whether you are just reprimanded. No, it is a smudge for life. It is a mark over your membership number for lifetime, which is carried over the lifetime, and it is to be reported at various places, creating a negative part on the profile of yours as well as your firm or the firm you wish to join. So please understand that the repercussions are not just small, but the repercussions are very wide. Then we have discussed these repercussions. Now I wish to bring to your attention, to support the repercussions, I wish to bring to your attention these case laws. So case law 1, so we'll be discussing two case laws over here to understand the interpretation which we have discussed, or rather I would say to support the interpretation which we have just discussed about. This case law is this again 2.3.1. It is Code of Ethics. Then a member who is not in practice, a chartered accountant who is not in practice, is that is who is not holding certificate of practice, is precluded from accepting engagements to render services of any of the types normally prescribed for a chartered. Again, is precluded from types normally prescribed for a chartered accountant. Which activities are these? Again, these activities. These activities. All these activities. all these activities because they are prescribed to be undertaken by chartered accountants. Understood? Then, even though for doing so, he does not require special qualification. So, for these areas, it is such member is precluded from accepting engagement. Now, a member, now how the case is to be interpreted? What is the commentary over here? In this regard, the facts of AC Kahe, and this is the referencing of the case noted. A member of the institute who was in practice till, I mean, it is a commentary for that particular case till this particular date was by an order of High Court dated this, suspended from practice for a period of 6 months, though not removed from the membership. So COP was be made, he was made to surrender COP but not membership. Then pursuant for 6 months. Now, pursuant to the order of High Court, he was asked to surrender the COP issued to him for a period of suspension, which he did. So he was asked to surrender COP, he surrendered the COP. Now, he, however, wrote to the institute inquiring whether he could practice as an income tax practitioner under Section 61 of the Income Tax Act, 1922, because this case pertains to 1954. So the income tax pertains to 1922. Okay. Being qualified otherwise than a chartered accountant to do so, he wrote so. Then, in reply, he was informed by the Chartered Accountants of India Institute that if a member acted as a representative in taxation matters, he would be deemed to be in practice as a chartered. And his attention in this connection was drawn to uh, Section 22, which we have just read, in Regulation 78 of the Chartered Accountants Regulation 1940. So even if those practitioners, those taxation practitioners, what they say that will represent in courts. So even if you're not certificate of holding certificate of practice, then also it will be deemed that you are holding certificate of practice. If you are just functioning as a member, of the institute, it will be deemed as that you were in practice, and certificate of practice becomes a prerequisite. Understood? Then he wrote back again. He did not stop. He wrote back to the institute saying that he was not going in for practice as chartered accountant, but doing income tax cases as per the provisions so and so of the Income Tax Act. He also stated in his opinion that Section 22 of the CA Act did not supersede Section 61 of the Income Tax Act, and that he was entitled to practice as an income tax practitioner, even though the even though even though he was at even before becoming a member of the institute, and he had only resumed his work since he could not practice as chartered. So even if your COP was surrendered, even if you surrender the COP, then also when you are representing yourself on behalf of the client to these tax authorities, it will be deemed, as we have already discussed, it will be deemed that you are undertaking in professional capacity, and certificate of practice will become a necessity, will become a prerequisite. Understood? Then, after this, he was again informed after his plea that he was required in this. He was again informed by the institute that he continued to be a member of the institute, but only suspended from the practice under the order of High Court for a period of 6 months, and he should comply with the provisions of the Act and the regulations so far as they indicate as they were applicable to the member of institute. The concerned the Commissioner of Income Tax Punjab, CIT Punjab, Himachal, and JNK also informed the institute that the member concerned made similar presentation to the income tax department there. Although he was suspended from practice, he could still practice as an income tax practitioner. So that particular member took this plea that despite that he is suspended to practice, he could still work. He could still work as an income tax practitioner. But again, court rejected the same. Court rejected it. The above contention of the member was not accepted by the council on following grounds. What were the grounds? Once the person concerned becomes a member of the institute, he is bound by the provisions of charter. So once you become the member of the institute, you are bound by the provisions of charter. That is why we are undertaking this activity, this CP program. So you are bound to comply with the provisions of Charter Accounts Act and its regulations if and when he appears before the income tax tribunal and income tax representative after having become a member of the institute, he could so or appear only in his capacity as chartered accountant and a member of the institute, having, as it were, brought himself within the jurisdiction of CA of the chartered member of the institute and has been punished by suspension from practice as a member, he would be entitled in substance to practice in some other capacity. A member of institute cannot have any other capacity in which he can undertake such practice separable from capacity to practice as member of the institute. So you need to understand that a chartered accountant cannot have two capacity or cannot have any capacity other than a chartered. So regardless of where he or she is representing, regardless of the activity they are undertaking, they cannot have any other capacity. And when they undertake any of these activities, then it becomes a prerequisite for them to obtain certificate of practice. Otherwise, it's a contravention of law. Understood? In this case also, it was the same. I remember even in this case, the chartered accountant was asked to do so, and the chartered accountant was asked to do so. But as you clearly read that he did not comply with the directions of the court, and when he asked to ICI clarified so. So I hope with this case, lot many queries must have got answered of or lot many apprehensions and ideas in the minds of chartered accountants must have got answered with this, that you cannot have any capacity other than a chartered accountant. Then another case law is there is a case referencing membership number New Delhi. This is the disciplinary case reference number, date of hearing. It's a latest case that was 1954 somewhere. It is a latest case, 18 September 2018. Then see, there are a lot many cases in volume, but we have picked only we have selected only handpicked cases so that we can discuss in here in this particular session for a particular topic. It doesn't end becoming a general topic. Then committee noted that allegation against the respondent is that he has signed the balance sheet, P&L, annual, P&L, profit and loss account, audit report for the financial year of the firm without holding COP. The submission of the respondent in this regard was that he signed the financial report of the firm but for the financial year 2019 unintentionally, as he was not aware of the as he was not aware that his COP had been cancelled due to non-payment of fees. Please understand, even if your COP is getting cancelled, even if your membership is getting cancelled due to non-payment of fees, you need to be very cautious, because despite the restoration option available by ICI on the date of execution, if you're not a chartered accountant or if you're not holding practicing COP, but you are rendering such services, In such case, you will end up violating the provisions of the Chartered Accountants Act. So it needs to be mentioned, it needs to be understood over here. Then during the hearing, the respondent reiterated his submissions and also admitted his mistake and pleaded for a lenient view. He reiterated that he had no wrong intention of the committee may take and the committee may take a lenient view. See, he may be wrong, he may be right, but once you are a chartered accountant, then you have no other capacity but as a chartered accountant, as we have just read earlier. Now, 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 when in order to engage in these activities, in order to engage these activities, certificate of practice becomes a prerequisite. But that CA did not understand that, because many a times it happens that we tend to forget to pay membership fees. We tend to forget to pay certificate of practice fee. So even if the such fee is not paid and your membership or certificate is cancelled for that period, then till the restoration is made, till the restoration is made, till the restoration is made, this particular certificate, till the restoration is made, any activity which required certificate of practice as a prerequisite cannot be undertaken by such practicing men. And he failed to do so. CS Sunil Grover failed to do so and faced the music. So the committee had carefully considered the submissions of the respondent, that is CS Sunil Grover, and the documents made available in record, and noted that the respondent himself has accepted that he had signed above documents without holding COP. The same was confirmed by M&S's department of ICI that he was not holding COP on the dates 31st March 20 to 31st to 1st October 12. On the dates 31st March 2010 and 30th September 2010. Further, as per COP details, the COP of the respondent is shown as cancelled from 1st 10 2009. However, there is no mention of restoration date. Thereafter, the COP dated 12th January 2011 is shown as cancelled from 1st 10 2012, and there is no mention of the restoration date. Now again the COP is shown active. So multiple times it happened in the past. When see, the case was held in on in September 2018, pertained to previous years. Okay, so when the ICI took the information from M&S's department, took the history, they concluded that the respondent, C. Sunil Grover, has been reckless as regards renewal of his membership or restoration of his COP, which is a matter of prime concern to a member. Understood? So, this is just to bring to your attention, these two case laws were different, and just to bring to your attention that unless you are holding COP, you cannot undertake any function but which a COP holder is supposed to undertake. Or, and what is this term? Where is this term supposed defined? Even these activities covered under deemed to be in practice are covered under that supposed to be term. Then uh, the committee in this regard noted the provision of Section 6(1) of the CA Act states that no member of the institute shall be entitled to practice, whether in India or elsewhere, unless he has obtained from the council a certificate of practice. Thus, respondent has clearly violated and provisions of the Act, and in prima facie view, held as guilty as admitted by him. Accordingly, the committee holds the respondent guilty of professional misconduct falling within the meaning of clause 1, part 2, second schedule, as I already discussed and explained to you. So, this particular repercussion I have already discussed and explained to you about that violation of, it will lead to violation of section 6. Okay. So, After this, I hope I was able to understand. I was able to explain these two case laws. Then after this, engage other engagements permissible with COP. So we need to understand that while COP, we have what we have discussed so far is how COP is significant and a prerequisite to undertake any of these activities. Okay, now where are we going is, and firstly we understood how it is how it is a requirement. Then it is understood after how it is a requirement. Then thereafter we understood that you were required to hold COP but did not hold COP. So repercussions for the same. Then case laws. Now what we will discuss, since we have already decided that yes, COP is a prerequisite and COP is required. Now, in addition to your practice areas mentioned over there, what other engagements are permissible while holding COP for a chartered accountant? All these engagements are permissible. Now, the term is, if we read clause 11, part 1 of the first schedule to the Chartered Accountants Act 1949, a chartered accountant in practice shall be deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he engages in any business or occupation other than the profession of chartered accountants unless permitted by the council so to. Meaning thereby, if he engages any business or occupation other than profession of chartered accountants unless permitted by council so to engage, provided that nothing contained herein shall disentitle a chartered accountant from being a director of a company, not being a managing director or full-time director, unless he or his partners is interested in such company as an auditor. So this is the requirement of clause 11. Now, for this clause 11, the first regulation which gets hit is regulation 190A and 191. Okay. Now, talking about, it's a smaller one, 191. So we'll first discuss this particular part. Now, part-time employment that a chartered accountant in practice may accept, notwithstanding anything contained in regulation 190A. Where is 190A? This is 190. Okay, in regulation 190 of the Chartered Accountants Regulation, now this 1988, even this particular notwithstanding, a chartered accountant in practice may act as a liquidator, trustee, executor, administrator, arbitrator, receiver, advisor, representative. All these terms we have already understood, provided his employment is not on salary. So earlier we understood in the manner that here we understood this, that if he is undertaking these activities, he will be deemed to be in practice. And here, as a corresponding part, here it is mentioned that unless that for these that a chartered accountant in practice may accept these part-time employments. Understood? So these engagements can be accepted. You can be appointed by central government or state government or by court for various or by any other legal authority for various acts to, or as an advisor or anything for various activities. Then even in such cases, you are allowed to hold COP. Earlier, you were supposed to have COP. Now, you are allowed to hold COP, and plea cannot be taken that how is it relevant? We are no longer functioning this. We are no longer undertaking this activity. No, this cannot be pled. Then Regulation 190A. If we talk about Regulation 190A of the Chartered Accountants Regulations 1988, a chartered accountant in practice shall not engage in any business or occupation other than the profession of consultancy with except with the prime permission of permission in accordance with the resolution of the council. So unless council is prescribing specifically, a practicing CA shall not engage in any business or occupation other than the profession of accountancy. Please understand. Even just as even that the stock market is booming, many players are getting interested. Even then, even then, if you wish to engage, then you need to have or you need to obtain information from ICA. And Appendix 9, after this Appendix 9, permission granted. So 190A, Regulation 190A provide that except with the permission granted in accordance with resolution of the council. How the council has provided the permission? These are the matters. These are the permissible engagements by the IC. First is permission granted generally, that is, no specific permission from the council would be necessary. You need to understand this term. So there are two types of allowances and further two types of allowances. Total four types. But if you talk about broader category of two types, then then the term is unless there are two types of permission. One is general permission, other one is specific. So general permission, there are certain activities for which you do not need a specific permission from ICF before undertaking those activities and while continuing to hold your certificate of practice. What are these activities? These are defined till here. Till here, these activities are defined. And what are the activities which you cannot undertake? Then these are these activities without specific approval. Okay. Now, if we talk about A1, A1 says that A1 says that even if when you have even if when you have been granted permission generally, even you have already been granted permission generally, you need not to seek a specific permission from ICI. Even in such cases, you will not, while you are continuing to hold COP, but you will not be entitled to perform any test function. So you may undertake management services, you may undertake non-attest services, but you cannot undertake attestation services. Understood? Then, these two activities are provided under this. One is employment under CA in practice or firm, CA firm naturally. And second is private tutorship. So if you are engaged in private tutorship, you need not to obtain a specific permission from ICA. Understood? Then permission granted generally and entitled to perform a test function. So only in these two services, your attest function gets restricted. In rest of the services, you are allowed to continue to hold your certificate of practice and you are allowed even to perform a test function as well while undertaking these activities in addition to your practice firm. What are these activities? Firstly, authorship of books and articles. You can very well write and author books and articles. Then holding of LIC policy for the limited purpose of what we call renewal commission, for the limited purpose of getting renewal commission. So holding of life insurance agency, then attending classes, appearing for any examination, LLB or any other examination, honoring of public elective office such as MP, MLA, MLC, then honoring office bearership of honorary office bearership of charitable institutional educational and non-commercial organizations, holding as notary public, then part-time tutorship, part-time from full-time now we have part-time tutorship under the coaching organization of institute. As you are all aware, institute identifies certain places and issue their coaching over there. Then valuation of papers, acting as setter paper and and a head examiner or a moderator for any examination. So even you can undertake this activity and no specific permission is required from ICI. and you can continue to perform your attest function. Then editorship of professional journals. You are professional journals. If you wish to undertake any journal, or you like you have a hobby of, let's say, cooking, and you are issuing a journal for the same, magazine for the same. No, that is not permissible while continuing a test function. So editorship of professional journals, acting as surveyor and loss assessor, acting as surveyor and loss assessor under Insurance Act, acting as recovery agent in banking sector, owning agricultural land and carrying out agricultural activities. So you can very well have your own land and undertake the farming, undertake agricultural activity while continuing your attestation function, and COP. And the last one is any coaching assignment organized by ICI, its regional council, and branches of regional council. So I hope these were the engagements where permissions are already granted. They are granted generally, and that is no specific permission, no prior permission from ICI council is required in order to undertake any of these activities. And you for first these two categories, while you may carry on your COP, but you are not permissible to perform any test function. And here in the category A2, not even holding COP is permissible. Okay. Now, the next set of categories are permission to be granted specifically. That is, prior permission from the council would be necessary, but not entitled to perform any attest function. So, if you are undertaking this activity, firstly, you need to obtain undertaking this activity, and you are holding COP or intend to hold COP, you must be aware of these provisions. That is, if you are holding COP, even firstly, you need to obtain prior specific permission from the council, and even if the permission is granted, then also are not allowed or not entitled to perform any attest function. What are these activities? Firstly, full-time or part-time employment in business concerns, provided that the member and or his relatives do not hold substantial interest in such concerns. Full-time, part-time employment in non-business concerns. Office of Managing Director, full-time director of a body corporate within the Minimum Companies Act 2013, provided that the member or the institute provided and any of his relatives do not hold substantial interest, then there is an exception to it. I'll discuss. There is an exception to this managing director and full-time director. I'll discuss in the later part, where I'll discuss the director part. Then interest in any family business concern in which interest has been acquired as a result of relationship, and relationship maybe family relationship, and in the management of which no active part is taken. So these then first these, then interest in a financial institution, education institution, sorry, then part-time or full-time lecturership for courses other than those relating to institute's examination conducted under the program auspicious of uh, Institute of Regional Councils or the branches. Then part-time or full-time tutorship under the educational institution. Here, private tutorship was included. Here, tutorship under the educational institution other than the coaching organization of the institute. So, if you are rendering coaching in institute, then these provisions will not get affected. Otherwise, these get attractive, and while you need to obtain prior specific information permission, then also you will not be entitled to perform any attest function whatsoever. Okay. Now, The after this seventh, another part is editorship of journals and other professional journals. You've already read what is mentioned over there. Then any other business or occupation for which the executive committee considers that permission may be granted. So this is blanket one. Then permission to be granted specifically and entitled to perform any attest function. So there is only one condition to one exception to it. That is where your engagement as lecturer in university, affiliate college, educational institution, coaching organization, private tutorship, provided that teaching hours devoted to such activities together do not exceed 25 lakhs per year. So you need to understand, if you are undertaking this activity, firstly you need to obtain prior permission from ICI, from the council. Then after in this case you are once it is received, you will be entitled to continue or provide the attest function. But if it is not received, you will not be allowed to undertake any of these activities, because for these activities to undertake, prior specific permission is mandatory. Then what do you mean by attestation function? Attestation function for the purpose of this resolution would cover audit, review, certification, agreed upon procedures, and compilation as defined in this particular part. I hope I'm able to make you understand. I hope I'm able to deliver to you professional journey. Then other engagements permissible by IOB. Then after this we have director simplicity. So you need to understand this term, this director part, because CAs are most confused and often get this dilemma of accepting the appointment as director in a company. So you need to understand that for what is allowed is director of a company. That is the expression director simpliciter means an ordinary or simple director who is not a managing director or full-time director as required, and is required only in the board meetings of the company and not paid any remuneration except for attending such meetings. So, director simplicity of term is defined in the code of ethics only, meaning thereby regulations only. ICI. This term is defined by ICI. It is nowhere provided in the Companies Act 2013. So, whenever any reference is to make it, you need to make the reference here only. Secondly, what does it mean? It means a ordinary simple director who is not a managing director or whole-time director as defined under the Companies Act 2013. Okay. Now, after this, and is required only and only in the board meetings, only of the company, such director is required. Otherwise, no other meeting or no other operation of the company he can get engage himself, and not paid any remuneration, and any remuneration, not provide any remuneration except for the meeting of attending CAPs. Director of a company, now promoter director. Second part is a member. So here we have clearly provided that the such a CA can only withdraw for attending such meeting, that is sitting fees. Second part is a member in practice permitted generally to be a director simpliciter in any company, including a board managed company, and as such is not required to obtain any specific permission of the council in this behalf. So, in order to become a director simplicity in a company, you need not to have any specific prior permission from IC. Okay. So, as such, he is not required to obtain any prior specific information permission from the council in this behalf, unless or any of his partners is interested in such company as an auditor, irrespective of whether he or his relatives hold interest and activity, substantial interest in that company. Okay, so for the director, only director simpliciter is allowed. Managing director, whole time director, not allowed. Yes, are allowed. So, a started accountant in practice can, as we all have this data bank, and many chartered accountants are appointed and or holding positions as independent director in various companies. So, independent director, yes, as independent director, you can be appointed as an independent director. It is covered under the term director simpliciter. And any other non-executive director, you can be appointed in any company rendering any services or goods, manufacturing, any business activity, anything they can do, provided you fulfill all these guidelines. Provided you fulfill all these guidelines. That is, no involvement in the business or occupation of the company, no withdrawal of any remuneration or income from the company, but only and only director sitting fees. That's it. This is what is allowed to a practicing chartered. Okay. Then after this this part for a member to be a promoter or signatory to the memorandum MOA AOA of a company. There is also no bar for such promoter signatory to be director simpliciter of that company, irrespective of whether the objectives of the company include in. Therefore, members are not required to obtain specific permission of the council in such case. Specific permission is they are provided as a general permission, and while holding this position as a director simpliciter, your attest function will continue. This was a clarification I wanted to make, that you can continue to render your attestation services. Further, not just and to is because it is in continuation to that director part, that corporate form of practice, LLP, but also you can render services via some via some company, via a corporate structure, not just as a partnership or LLP structure, but also as a corporate structure. And it is very well permissible by ICI, corporate form of practice. And it's been more than 50 years since when these corporate form practice are allowed. And all name provisions, everything are similar to akin to a CA firm only. And but thus defined scope of services
I think he's disconnected.
I guess there was some internet issue. Am I
Yeah.
audible now, Mansi?
Yes, yes, you are now audible.
Yes, now you are audible, sir.
Yes. Please continue, sir.
Okay. So I was referring that in the corporate form of practice, in the corporate form of practice, I was here in the corporate form of practice, which is allowed to practicing CAs akin to a CA firm in proprietorship, partnership, or in LLP model. Even as a company, as a private limited, CAs can practice in corporate form of practice, and what services they can render? All these services here, all these services, management consultancy and other services. So these services can be rendered by way of corporate form of practices. For example, you have a firm by the name as ABC and Associates or ABC and Associates LLP. Now you can incorporate a private limited company by the name say ABC Business Advisory Private Limited. And this company name, it needs to be first approved by ICI, and after a name approval is made by ICI, then it is to be incorporated. All the incorporation procedures from with the to be made by a registrar of companies, ROC. And after this company it gets incorporated, then you can render all these services from such company while being a full-time practicing CA, while carrying on all the attestation services as an auditor, or you can certify all the test functions. You can undertake all types of audit from your partnership firm or proprietorship firm. You can very well undertake and remain in full-time practice while drawing a salary under section 192 from the company ABC Business Advisory Private Limited. So while you can draw salary from the company, from such corporate form of practice vehicle, you can continue to remain as a full-time COP holder practicing in other capacity. So it is very well allowed. The conditions are same. The conditions for the constitution and composition of directors, of the shareholders of such company corporate vehicle remains same, which are applicable in case of a CA firm. That is, all the directors, shareholders need to be chartered accountants in practice, or or the prescribed professionals, let's say company secretary or cost accountant. So all the conditions remain same. It's just that you can render these services in corporate form of practice and become, as I mentioned over here while I was referring this particular provision, this director not being a managing director, full-time director. So in such company, you can be a managing director or full-time director in such corporate form of practice. So this particular part I intentionally left to discuss at this particular stage, and all the provisions, everything will follow and is very well given in Code of Ethics. And again, if let's say, take an example of a case where you are not holding COP. Now you wish to create a company and render services pertaining to bookkeeping or any service, any of these services, management consulting service, any of these services or any of these three services, and you made your wife, your parents as a director in the company. Okay, firstly, it will be a violation of this section, section 25. And all directors, every director, even your wife or your other spouse or your parents, will be punishable to this offense. Then the company is violating this particular section. Then you are as a CA, or you are violating all these provisions, because you will be deemed to be in practice, and you will be required to have a certificate of practice, and otherwise you will be violating, it will be a violation of section 6(1) of the Chartered Accountants Act. So for the CAs who wish to undertake these activities and plan to undertake these activities in a corporate form by creating some company, you cannot undertake this company these practices in that manner. Rather, in case you do not wish to undertake attestation function, you wish to have your practice completely in non-attestation practice, in non-attestation area, non-assurance areas, in all these in these areas. Okay, even in such cases, what vehicle it is your choice, that you may not create a partnership firm, proprietorship firm, or LLP, but you can create a private limited company duly registered with the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India as a under the model of corporate form of practice, by having another shareholder director as practicing CA or any other professional prescribed under the law, and while and also holding COP and rendering services from such company and drawing salary from such company. So even if you wish to undertake only non-assurance services, then also you need to have the certificate of practice and create a company in this manner. You cannot simply create a private limited company, because it will be a violator of various provisions of the act. So I hope I was able to clarify lot many queries. I was lot many assumptions, lot many. I was able to clear lot many misconceptions and assumptions, and lot many practices, malpractices prevalent in the country, across country. That you opt this, you surrender COP, but no need of COP if you are undertaking this activity. No need of COP if you are representing yourself, undertaking representation services, tax assignments. No COP is required for undertaking tax services only. All these misconceptions, I hope I was able to clear with all these statutory provisions before you. If there are any queries, then ethical standard board secretary may ask, Amanji may ask. And again, with this, I'd like to again appreciate the secretary to bring this very significant topics of significance of COP, considering the ongoing scenario and malpractices across country. With this, I for any queries, anything which any queries, Amanji or
Yes.
secretary may raise, and we can discuss, right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Ayush, for your wonderful session. So we received some of the questions from our audience. So they would like to
Yes,
us.
sir.
So I am just reading the one question and then you can answer it out. So once you over with this one question, then I can move to second question. Okay. So the question
Sure.
first is asked by the, is it implied from the code of ethics that CA deemed to be in practice need to pay the annual COP fees?
Yes. Basically, once you are deemed to be in practice, so you need to have a certificate of practice.
Yes.
When you need to have certificate of practice, how will you have it? Only by paying the annual fees.
Please.
Unless you pay the annual fees, this particular case law will directly fall in your case of CA Sunil Grover, and you will be held guilty of professional misconduct under the mentioned clause of the part 2 of the second schedule to the Chartered Accountants Act 1949.
Right. Greatly answered, sir. Thank you. So, next question is, can practicing chartered accountants supply manpower to companies?
It is already provided and covered over here, sir. It is already covered over here. Uh, this particular part, personnel recruitment and selection. So it is allowed under the service, under the ambit of management consultancy and other services. which is provided under this particular part, and it is very well permissible as part of your FRN, firm registration number,
Got it.
as your practice CA form, also by creating corporate form of practice by creating a private limited company.
Great. Thank you. So next question is, what services are covered under the management consultancy which are not required COP of chartered accountant? You can please mention the few examples.
Well, it will be very tricky to mention anything because with every day, because in the past 3 years, if you
Right.
notice, you may have not noticed, but in the past year, because it is my third term in the Ethical Standard Board, and every year, almost every year, this agenda comes up whereby to increase the ambit of this management consulting services. So various services are covered over here. If any service which is not intentionally covered, maybe Secretary ESB may be able to answer the same. Anything is there, Ashishi?
Uh, yes, sir. Subsequent to this, one or two services have been added which are not coming in the revised edition. I think that this IPE is coming. IPE,
Okay. Insolvency professionals. Okay.
yeah, uh, and one or two other services are under deliberation, like social audit. No, they have not been finalized. Otherwise, IPE is still there, which is not coming in here. Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you. So moving to the next question. If one partner is a full-time in partnership, can he works as a freelancer individually where he has not to certify or attest any work?
Yes, it is allowed. Let's say your structure is that the firm is a partnership firm. Let's say
Yeah.
two partners,
Okay.
and both holding COP. FRN is there. Now, while being a partner in the FRN, you can very well legally there is no bar to practice in individual capacity. However, but many CA firms provide in the partnership firm the to not I mean they restrict by a partnership firm to not practice in individual capacity. So unless there is a clause, such clause in their partnership firm, then yes, it is very well permissible, or I would say it is not prohibited by ICI anywhere to not practice in individual capacity.
Okay. So that can be permissible.
Yes.
Thank you. So moving to the next question. What to do for changing spelling in name as mentioned in the COP? I think it is more of the procedure, but if you can highlight something on that.
What? I didn't get your question, sir.
Yeah. What to do for changing spelling in name as mentioned in the COP, Certificate of Practice?
It's basically everything is now via self-service portal.
Yeah,
You simply log into self-service portal. There is an
exactly.
option, basic profile details, basic edit, change of name, everything is there.
Yeah,
No need to approach anybody. Simply go to self-service
to
portal and apply. It
self-service
will be
portal.
done within prescribed time period.
Yeah. So moving to the next question, which is the last question. Please explain self-review threat versus self-interest threat.
Sir, okay. While it is not directly pertaining to the
True.
subject matter, however, it
Exactly.
is part of the Code of Ethics,
Yeah, right.
Volume 1.
Right.
Okay. And it is provided that self-review threat and self-interest threat. Self-review threat is basically a threat emanating from the activities which an auditor firm is undertaking, which will and such activities which auditor firm is executing, and at a later on stage, such executed activities will become the review of the auditor firm itself as an auditor. Example could be GST return filing, TDS return filing. So while during a particular year, you may have engaged and filed GST returns, TDS returns on behalf of your auditee client. Okay, but at the end, after the end of the year, as an auditor, you will be required to review these to audit, not review, to audit these filed GST returns and TDS returns, whether they were filed correctly or not. So it's a self-review threat.
Right.
Okay. Now, what is self? Other one you mentioned is self-interest threat, right, sir?
Right. Right. Right.
Self-interest threat. So this is
Right.
self-review threat. Now, self-interest threat is where you are financially interested. If you are undertaking a particular audit of an entity where you are financially interested, where your business interest is there, that is, if let's take an example where there is a company whose shareholding where you have invested as a shareholder. Naturally, as you cannot undertake the audit of such company because you are financially interested. So this is called self-interest. Now, as per the requirement of IC, a code of ethics, both threats, in addition to three other threats, are also there. All threats need to be firstly identified, then evaluated, and then safeguards, if any, needs to be, all these aspects needs to be documented and must form part of your audit working file, working papers in each audit. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, sir? Any other query?
Thank you, Ayush ji. So, as of now, no questions we have received so far. So, moving to the Ashish ji. So,
Yeah.
or shall I proceed to the vote of thanks, sir? As you wish.
Yes, sir. Sir, I will just like to say that, sir, you have given a wonderful exposition of this very important topic and the significance of COP, which has
Right.
not been much deliberated before. So the members must have benefited greatly. And I also thank CA Aman Sahaji for his support. And thank you for the members for watching in very large numbers. And please keep watching the webinars of Ethical Standard Board. Yes, sir. Please, over to you.
Thank you, sir. So, I am proceeding to the vote of thanks with the permission of Ashish ji, Secretary of ESB. So, as a thank you is not such a prayer that can be seen or the touched, it can be felt by the hearts. I feel honored and the privilege to get an opportunity to propose a vote of thanks on this special occasion. I am pleased to be here on the behalf of the ESB ICAI to convey my gratitude to our guest speaker, CA Ayush Jainji, who deserves a special recognition for accepting our invitation and being here with us today. Also would like to thanks to the chairman of ESB, CA Dr. Anuj Goyalji, who deserves a special thanks for his constant support and the guidance. Also, I would like to give a applause and a heartfelt appreciation to all the members of the ESB and the Secretary ESB, Ashish ji, who contributed to making this evening as a successful. Finally, I would like to convey my gratitude to everyone here for taking the time to join us today and for assisting us in making this event a huge success. Thank you to every one of you. Thank you so much for making this event successful. Thanks.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.